to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled.
From the studio gym where excuses never apply.
It's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
I got Rocky in the green room. There are certain things that we talk about often on this show. And I'm sure a lot of people are tired of hearing about it. But the reason we talk about it often is because it's the gateway to infinite health. I talk a lot about donating blood. You don't hear that on anybody else's podcast. Another thing I talk about really often and have done so since the beginning of this podcast is sleep. Because there is no single other thing that you should spend your effort and money on to get right than your sleep, because it will add to longevity and health. You will avoid metabolic diseases. Proper sleep can reverse type 2 diabetes in weeks without drugs. People don't get it. And so I talk about it often. We're going to talk about sleep today because there are 5 pathways to sleep that you cannot ignore. And Wade Lightheart is going to be here in just a second to detail them for us. I have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, for making the sweet rolls. If you always wanted to eat one of those Cinnabons at the airport or the mall cafeteria area, but don't dare do it, you can now enjoy them without all the guilt. 20 grams of high-quality protein, 1 gram of sugar, 5 net carbs. They come in cinnamon, chocolate, and wild berry. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10, not just to take 10% off, but to let them know that you learned about them here on Superhuman Radio. And now, my buddy Wade Lightheart. How you doing, Wade?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Had a good night's sleep last night. So the night before I didn't. I was in Dallas at an event, and boy, I had a bad night's sleep, which is unusual. Man, sleep is really important. You can really feel the difference.
And overnight. I mean, it's the only thing. You know what's really fascinating? My mother always used to say about my father that he had an amazing body. She didn't mean like he was built like a bodybuilder. He was very, very strong. But he was a working man. He had to be strong, but what she meant about him that he has an amazing body is that he recovered so well, so quickly from all sorts of injuries and even surgeries later on in his life. And I realized that that's a gift. But I never thought about it. But my father always slept amazingly. He never snored, and he fell asleep and stayed asleep until it was time to get up in the morning to work. And I never put 2 and 2 together. But the key to having a superhuman body is that kind of sleep, that everything gets repaired that night. And tomorrow morning, you had an injury the day before, you don't feel it anymore. I get that way too when I get good sleep.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And the thing is, now we're starting to understand, because sleep disorders are such a big issue and so common. Americans are the most sleep deprived nation in the world. They also take the most sleep medications, which don't actually enhance the sleep cycle. That's the other part. Yeah, you pass out, but why do we sleep? Why is that important? And, according to guys like Dr. Huberman, who's out there talking a lot about this and bringing a lot of attention, there's a bunch of sleep cycles, and you can measure all this with an EEG. Okay, so now they're hooking people up and they're tracking how the cycle should look, and then what it shouldn't look like. And almost across the board, I would say, I would estimate it's probably 4 to 5 Americans are probably in a disrupted sleep cycle. They're not going through the various waves that starts to happen. And we can talk a little bit about the stages, just briefly, to understand that it's a cycle. It's like a wave,
right?
Going to,
there's specific sleep architecture. before we talk about the architecture, let me tell you about the damaging effect of not having good sleep architecture. Okay, so we know that dementia, people with Alzheimer's disease have sucky sleep for a long time, and sleep fragmentation causes memories not to be folded and placed appropriately in the brain, and then you can't remember things. So number one. Number two, thyroid hormone is produced during your sleep. So whether or not your thyroid functions properly depends on proper sleep. Sleep architecture takes you in and out from deep sleep to almost wakefulness, back down again, and you go through all these different cycles. Specifically, different hormones are produced during different depths of the cycle. Most people have I think it was either 5 or 7 of these cycles a night if you're sleeping well. But without an EEG machine, we're all shooting in the dark, because you know, I did a show. In fact, Ron Penna emailed me not too long ago a study about the damaging effects of anesthesia. And I did a show, and he said to me, you were the first person to talk about this about 8 or 9 years ago, which is true. I did a show specifically talking about the things that damage the brain the most. Anesthesia was number one. Number two was multitasking, which people are so proud of. Our brain is a single processor, and it's not full duplex, it's half duplex. When it's thinking, it's not receiving. When it's receiving, it's not thinking, and we're trying to force it to jump from thing to thing. That was something that damages the brain. But the anesthesia, no one has ever gotten out of a surgery and woke up out of anesthesia in the intensive care unit for where recovery and went, man, I feel effing great. That was the best sleep I've ever had, except maybe Michael Jackson, maybe him, right?
Right.
Nobody does, because I think we can all agree that I can hit you in the head with a baseball bat and you can lay on that floor still for 8 hours, but that's not sleeping.
Yeah, we see it in the UFC all the time.
Yeah.
Guys go to sleep, but they don't feel great when they wake up.
Yeah. So let's talk about sleep architecture and why it's so important to understand it and then be able to see it for yourself.
Now, I want to be clear too. I'm not a sleep expert. I'm borrowing this information. There's some great information in detail if you look at Dr. Huberman. But I'm going to just, run over this for our listeners so they can get an idea that there's this kind of wave pattern, which you referred to. So these are broken into, let's say you sleep for 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours or whatever. You'll go through maybe 4 of these cycles. So stage 1 is kind of like there's a latency. So when you hear the word latency, that means how quickly you go to sleep. And we all know what it's like when you've been sitting there. This is what happened to me the other night. I was in another place. I was in a completely different area. I had a lot of stimulation in there. Like I normally, when I go to sleep, it's like 5 minutes, I'm out. Mm-hmm. Really quick sleep latency. It was like an hour and a half. You're tossing and turning. So you want to address sleep latency. A lot of that's related to stimulation, blue light, disruptive programming, a lot of violence and things early.
Eating late at night.
Eating's the worst. And you need to track that, like how it's different for different people. Some people it's an hour, some people it's 2 hours. I've seen some people it's 4 hours. Mm-hmm. They can't eat 4 hours before they go to bed, or it disrupts their sleep pattern. And also what you eat also is a factor. So the first stage should be only a few minutes. It's kind of like getting into and get out. And this is where you just start ending into a little bit of a dream state. Then the next thing, this is where you start going, which is going to be stage 2 or N2. The first one's stage 1. That's going to be getting into these. It's about 50% of your sleep where you're kind of getting into the parts. You get a little bit of REM and stuff. They call these sleep spindles and K complexes. If you want to get tactical, we won't go into that too deep. But stage 3, ultimately, stage 3 is the critical deep sleep phase. And the more deep sleep a person gets, that's where the regenerative components are really come. So
especially physically regenerative, right? Because
That's
REM is brain regenerative, and deep sleep is physically regenerative.
that's right. And then the fourth state, this is where that REM thing comes in, where you'll see the dreams. This is the dream state, and that starts at about 90 minutes after you go. So you'll run through a first cycle of this stage 1, 2, 3, 4, come back out, go back into another sleep cycle, right? And those first two, like the deeper you go in those first two, that's the regenerative side. And then those lesser cycles, the fourth, the third, and the fourth, and it maybe even a fifth, they're going to be much shorter,
Right.
and they're going to come out of it. And that's where you have those kind of weird dreams where you wake up in the morning and like, I was, riding a jungle cat across the desert or something.
Right.
And if you want to get into that, you can look at Carl Jung's work on dream interpretation, because usually what that is your right brain, which is often suppressed in our society now, is trying to bring up emotional imagery into and synchronize it with the left brain. So it talks in symbols.
Right.
And so a lot of your dreams are kind of just disjointed defragging of the computer. But if you're getting some of these things, and the better your sleep is, the more you tend to remember your dreams. Everybody dreams. Somebody say, I don't dream. Yeah, you do. You just don't remember it because your sleep cycle's not right. And if you don't remember your dreams, that's a good indication that you're not going through the full sleep cycle. Just like if you don't wake up refreshed, you probably didn't get a deep. So if you can't remember your dreams, your REM cycle's off. And if you don't feel regenerated, your deep sleep is off.
In fact, if you use benzodiazepines to sleep without adding melatonin, so if you use just benzos to sleep, you can develop something, it's called REM sleep disorder, where you actually act out REM. You move a lot. You do things you like, and also you have a suppressed REM, which is ironic if you're acting out. And so people who use benzos to sleep, when they decide they don't want to use them anymore, they generally have horrible nightmares because their REM sleep gets corrected. If you take melatonin with benzos, that keeps you from developing the REM sleep disorder. There's one other thing I want to talk about. Paul Becker, who was a good friend of mine, I don't keep in touch with him anymore, but he's the guy who invented the Earth pulse electromagnetic field device, which I still have 2 of them at home. And he did the research early on with this other doctor. The average sleep cycle is about an hour and a half, give or take 10 minutes here and there. And how many of us have awakened at 6 and then we fall back to sleep because there's nothing going on that day? And instead of sleeping for the entire hour and a half of the next cycle, we wake up midway and we think to ourselves, man, I felt better when I woke up earlier. Now I'm all slugged, because you're waking up inappropriately during a cycle where you shouldn't be rising yet. We've all done that, right?
That's a big one I've noticed for myself. I operate really great in that 6 to 7 hour window. But if I go beyond that 7 hours, I disrupt my sleep cycle and I feel more tired because it's that exactly what you described. And
my sweet spot is 7 hours. If I sleep 7 hours, I feel effing fantastic. If I lay there in bed and fall back to sleep, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes, I don't feel as good as if I would have got out of bed at the 7 mark. I do.
Exactly. And so discipline around your sleep is really important as well, and understanding and really locking it down. I think that's the other thing, is patterns and habits pre-sleep and waking up are really important to put into your program. And then to going back to the benzos, it's one of the most prescribed drugs out there. And there's a large percentage of the population that becomes physically addicted and aren't able to come off it. And if anybody wants to hear about the downside of that, go listen to Dr. Jordan Peterson, the psychologist who was prescribed benzos and had to be put into a medically induced coma in Russia in order to get off them, because it was so disruptive for him. And he said it was literally living hell. They put him into because coming off it can be absolute nightmare. Literally, you become living in a nightmare in your waking state.
Well, also benzos are used post-trauma. So like if you witnessed a mass murder, they'll give you benzos right from the get-go for the next few days, and the memories will fade. You'll be less connected. You won't. So think about that when you're talking about memory function. People who sleep on benzos every single night, they tend to have almost a dementia type of a brain, because the way benzos affect sleep cycles, the way when you're supposed to be making memories and storing them. And here's another fact. mTOR is bad, according to some people today who are like fasting to try to, fasting is the best. You don't want to disrupt mTOR, because mTOR actually is what folds the memories and stores them. There's a drug that they experimented with. Ron Penna told me about this, to help people who are traumatized by an event forget the event. It was so powerful at blunting mTOR's effect of making memories that the way they used it is they gave you the drug and then they made you recount the trauma. And what happened was, after you recounted it, it wasn't folded and put away properly, and you forgot it. The problem was, if you give that drug to somebody and they go home and greet their wife, they'll forget who their wife is the next day.
Oh my God.
True story. That's why it was never used. It was abandoned. It was so effective at brainwashing, so to speak, that it would ruin your life. So mTOR is important, folks. Don't think that, mTOR is bad. No, like Joel Green says, that's baby talk, bad and good. Everything is situational.
Yeah, very, very, very good on that. Very good. All right, so we understand that there's a sleep cycle. We understand that there's stages of sleep. There's lifestyle modification, behavior components that you've got to kind of work out on your own, whether it's eating, turning off the blue lights, getting the temperature cool, having the right bed, because heat discharge from your mattress is another thing that wakes a lot of people up, your core body temperature. People talk about grounding. We don't ground very much. Taking a shower before bed is oftentimes great, or that's a good one. Because that'll help ground you. We talked about that the last time we were on the show. I think that was a really nice tip. And then let's get into some of the things that people are doing. Of course, a lot of people are using medications, Carl, and
not good.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about the medication side? Because I think there's probably people who are interested in sleeping and they've tried medications. What's your experience around medications and the complications?
Me personally, I can tell you that there's a study out there that shows Ambien long-term will give you metabolic disorder. In other words, make you insulin resistant, which proves that just because you lay there for 8 hours, it's not sleep. If it was sleep, you wouldn't develop diabetes like a shift worker. A shift worker is up all night long. They develop type 2 diabetes. People who take Ambien to sleep get to have the same problem, which kind of makes it like you're a shift worker. You're not sleeping anyway. So that's one big one.
Yeah, Roseanne Barr attributes that to why she got canceled. She got on a phone and said some things that she doesn't normally do or whatever. And then that was the end of her #1 television show. And, complications from Ambien. And there's a long history of people having major breaks from their normal personality when they use that type of medication. So
a woman went to Atlantic City and mortgaged her home and lost and didn't know she was doing it. And the next day she was told by the casino that she had to come down and sign some papers. And she thought, what are you talking about? They had to show her camera images of her at the crap tables. She did not know she had. And I have a close personal friend who went to a hotel, took his Ambien, and then realized he had to run out again. Got in his car, didn't remember anything past that, and wrecked the car and almost killed himself. On Ambien is horrible stuff. That's like, let me just bonk you on the head and then send you out into the world to deal with life.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And of course, there's a lot of people in the natural health space which are using melatonin, I would say, in excess. Mm-hmm. And that's melatonin is probably really great as when you travel as a sleep resetter for your circadian rhythms, but used all the time in high dosage may be more detrimental long-term than, than it could be. I think a little bit of melatonin periodically or systematically in small dosages can be very helpful, but an over-reliance on it is very disruptive. So where do you want to go next? We can
let's go right to the product. Look, if you follow Instagram, Americans have 3 problems: hemorrhoids, crappy sleep, and neuropathy. Like, if you go on Instagram, there's an ad for one of those things every 10 seconds. So clearly there's a reason for that, and that's because that's what people complain about. Let's talk about how sleep breakthrough fixes these problems without pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah, it's a great product that you can dose up because it comes in a powder form. You can take individual scoops. So, most people are either a 2 to 3 scooper. Some people are a 1. Some people are as high as a 4. You have to kind of play with it a little bit to see what the right amount. But it contains some key ingredients that will allow you to improve all facets of those stages of sleep that we kind of touched on briefly. And again, go check out Huberman's stuff where he gets into the deep explanations. You can get it right from a PhD, but we've addressed those issues. So one of the area is GABA production. You probably hear about GABA production. So magnesium is a big factor. In fact, magnesium bisglycinate, there's a 2012 study with seniors who were struggling with sleep. And bisglycinate seems to, number one, affect sleep latency as well as cortisol levels, because elevated cortisol levels is one of the things that, that's how you feel stressed. If you have too high, cortisol is an important part of the body, but too much of it, that's where you have that feeling of stress. Next thing, a cofactor to melatonin is what's called P5P. So it's just an active form of B6. So what this does is helps take the magnesium and convert it into serotonin. Okay, so we have a lab in Bosnia where we can actually see the bacteria cultures in your body start producing these elements, because most of the serotonin is based in your gut. You add the P5P, they produce more serotonin. It's really interesting. Then you're looking at, there's some, several different minerals that you need in order to ensure this. And we've actually, by the way, we put all of this in the formulation, but I'm going to break that up. Potassium gluconate. So there's a guy by the name of Dr. Ravi Alada, who is a circadian rhythm expert. And so he was talking about high potassium channel quiets down the neurons. And he did all this with animal studies on circadian rhythms, because when your circadian rhythms, your brain is firing at a time that it's supposed to be relaxing, essentially. So having a potassium to sodium in the 3 to 1 range is about what you want to do. So some people who have high sodium, they need to uptake their potassium. A lot of ketogenic folks will find they really have to up their potassium. I know Matt, who's a ketogenic guy, my business partner, he really has to concentrate on potassium in order to get the best amounts of sleep. Okay. So if you're taking, a few grams of, 3 to 5 grams of sodium a day, and it's very easy to do that, you're probably going to need 2-3 grams of potassium.
Can I add something to the potassium story?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people who suffer from hypertension. The only sign is they have crappy sleep. So when you look at hypertension in today's population, it's almost always caused through the angiotensin pathway. And if you look at any drug that modulates either angiotensin production or angiotensin receptor blockers, ARBs, a byproduct of those drugs is they raise potassium. Why? Because potassium relaxes the blood, the vasculature, it relaxes the heart. So when you sleep at night, your pulse rate and your blood pressure is supposed to drop. It's called a dip. When it doesn't happen, you're called a non-dipper, and you're more likely to die in your sleep. Well, the thing that relaxes the heart the most and gets it to slow down is potassium. And that's why ARBs and ACE inhibitors actually, when people are diagnosed with oh man, you got hypertension, they start taking them. Then the first thing they realize, wow, I sleep really good now. All of a sudden, yeah. So another byproduct, an extrinsic effect of that potassium is it relieves the cardiovascular system. It relaxes it. In fact, many of you may know that if you have too high of a potassium level, your heart will stop beating. Boom. People die from hyperkalemia when they drink too much water and their electrolytes get unbalanced and they literally die just because the heart stopped beating. So potassium is a magic mineral, and most of us don't get enough. We get lots of sodium, and there's a profound relationship between sodium and potassium, but we don't get enough potassium. So potassium right before bed is really important, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we've got calcium citrate, which that helps convert the tryptophan into serotonin as well. So these are the building blocks for your body to release melatonin. Your body will produce melatonin, and a lot of people aren't producing enough melatonin because they're missing these key elements in the right components. And when we do sleep breakthrough, we put them all together in the formula so that you're able to get all of these at the right time before you go to sleep. 2013, there was a journal of European Neurology journal that talked about elevated calcium levels that are elevated, and that's particularly correlated to the REM part of your sleep. So we talked about that's the defragging stage, if you are right? And that's where probably the old wives' tale around milk before bed, back when milk was milk, it was okay in grandma's day because she was probably drinking raw milk from the cow.
Right.
Not what today. Zinc orotate. Every guy needs to be on zinc. I mean, if you're not on zinc, it's a big deal. But zinc, melatonin, and magnesium are all, correlated together. Okay. So zinc, what they feel, the researchers that we looked at feel that's part of the restorative components of your sleep. So zinc has a calming impact on the nervous system, and it's known to aid in mental recuperation. Happens to be a great immune system booster as well. There's a bunch of studies that if you take 30 milligrams of zinc a day, this improves your free testosterone. I can tell you personally, if I take zinc versus not taking zinc, it's very noticeable just on my sexual desire.
Right.
If I don't take zinc, my sexual desire drops off. And when I take zinc, it's elevated.
Guess what seafood is insanely high in zinc? Oysters.
Right.
Everybody knows when you eat oysters, you get horny. Why? Because zinc reduces aromatase biosynthesis. And aromatase steals testosterone and turns it into estradiol. So zinc is magic. In fact, I stand to be corrected, but Joel Green did a post in the past month tying adequate zinc levels in humans to longevity.
I don't doubt it a bit. There was another doctor, I forget his name. I went to his seminars years ago, and he talked about how zinc is critical in immune system response by disrupting dysfunctional viruses from replicating inside your cell.
Mm-hmm.
So zinc is a key element of that. So on top, that's just other benefits. Men almost if you go get your zinc levels tested, for most men today, it's really low. It's like magnesium levels. Again, you also want to know your own individual genetics, because you may be predisposed to not being able to metabolize a various mineral or vitamin that we're talking about. And that's why when we did the sleep breakthrough, we didn't put it in capsules, we put it in scoop powders so that you can kind of figure out your own dose.
Individualized. That's a big word in medicine today. Oh, we do individualized medicine. We don't do one size fits all. Why shouldn't supplements be that way? Not everybody. Like I'm a horrible responder to GABA. When I do one scoop of this stuff, it works. If the first time I used it, I did 5 scoops. I was up almost all night, frantic, because GABA stimulates me. It doesn't relax me. So there you go. Individualized.
Yeah, and it's a great thing to talk about when we talk about GABA, and that's a great point. How do you know that, GABA is often associated with the molecule of chill, but it's an aware chill. So I used to drink GABA tea, and I really like the feeling of GABA for my brain. But that's relative to my neurochemistry. Someone else who has a different neurochemistry is going to respond differently. So you want just enough GABA that it doesn't overstimulate you. And that's how, if you take, let's say you went to 3 scoops and you felt too stimulated, cut it back to 2, and you'll probably get just as much for your GABA. Now, of course, there's different types of GABA. There's pharma GABA, and it's interesting because pharma GABA seems to create a better relaxation response of the various GABAs that are out there. So again, we've done 55 different variations of sleep breakthrough to get to this final formula, if you can imagine, like tweaking, trying different GABAs, trying these different products, putting these different elements together, and then testing them, not just in the lab where we can see what's being delivered to the cell, but testing it with our BioTribe members who are giving us the feedback overall. And it's very interesting where you see the variances in people, and that's how we've come up with these formulas. Then we've got taurine. So people can talk about taurine. You'll see a lot of taurine in like stimulation drinks, energy drinks, and you go,
yeah, because they help the heart function better.
Correct. Yeah, and it counters the overstimulation.
Right.
That's why they'll take the taurine. So if I slam a bang, let's say, and I go for the next one, and then I have a cup of coffee, and I'm sitting there going like this. The taurine is one of the things that helps bring you back. So we've got a little bit of taurine in that as well. And then, people are studying suffering from monkey mind, where you can't shut the brain off at night. Best thing for that, L-theanine. L-theanine is an amino acid. It's found in green tea. It's why when people drink green tea as opposed to coffee, oftentimes they don't feel as stimulated because the theanine has the counter effects. And a lot of coffee brands now are adding L-theanine so you don't feel overstimulated. So it's really interesting. There's a whole lot of studies on that and how it works with pharma GABA and how it changed. So if you put theanine and GABA together, you get better brainwave regulation as you go through your sleep cycles.
I want to take a break, and when we come back, I want to share with the audience my last text to you. I got to believe you opened that text up and thought, okay, now he's gone crazy. But I will save it for when we come back from the break. Okay, let's do this. We're going to take one quick commercial break. Don't go away. There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off. Great sleep upgrades you on virtually every level: body fat, muscle mass, mood, brain function, and countless other ways. But taking melatonin alone isn't the answer. Thanks to a brand new sleep formula developed by my friends at Bioptimizers, you can experience the best night's sleep ever. Sleep Breakthrough is a delicious sleep drink that supports your natural melatonin production and relaxation without creating a dependency, so you can have the best night's sleep on demand. It targets 5 different sleep pathways to give you the best sleep ever. And best of all, you'll wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated so that you can have the best day possible. For an exclusive offer for my listeners, go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Plus, you can unlock special gifts with the value of at least $20. This is a limited time offer, so go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR right now. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? did? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. BPC is one of the most amazing supplements you can use. It's been shown to increase the speed of recovery, heal the gut, and do so many other things. BPC stands for Body Protection Compound, and it's a naturally occurring peptide in the body. Used by professional athletes and weekend warriors alike, there has always been an obstacle in the way of average people using BPC, and that is it was injectable only. Not any longer, thanks to NutriNeeds. We now have oral BPC, and it works. Go to shrnetwork.biz/NutriNeeds, NutraNeeds. Use the code SHR and save 10% off your bottle of BPC. Feel better, recover faster, train harder. NutriNeeds.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back. So I text Wade early in the morning when I have like brainstorms about, hey, this is cool. Check this out. I'm experimenting with this. So I have been drinking coffee and tea together. And I noticed something from it. I noticed the theanine effect, but other things on my gut, like it doesn't disrupt my gut if I have it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. So what I do is I have a coffee press. I just use 1 scoop of grounds, put the hot water in, press it, and pour that into a cup with a tea bag in it and let it steep. And then I squeeze the tea bag and I sip it, and it has the best flavor. The combination between coffee and tea is amazing. And I thought somebody needs to make coffee grinds with free flowing tea leaves in them and check this out, because, we have people who love coffee. We have people who love tea. I bet you we'd have a lot more people who love coffee tea, something like
coffee. That. It's interesting you say that, Carl, because for years, and I never thought of it. The text when it came to me, I started laughing because I'm a tea drinker and my girlfriend's a coffee drinker. So she can't get going without coffee in the morning. And so we go to the coffee shop. We get up, we go to the coffee shop. We have a coffee before we go work out. Mm-hmm. When I get back from the workout, I like to drink tea. And I've been doing this for years. And the coffee tea thing I'm doing, I didn't actually blend them together. But I thought, isn't that funny? Because I've been doing this for years and never thought.
I enjoyed a cup of hot chai tea back in the day. And if you go to Starbucks, you can order a dirty chai latte, which is chai tea. But unfortunately, theirs comes out of a container. It's got 40 grams of sugar. So I'd say, no, give me hot chai tea, give me a shot of cream, and give me a shot of espresso. And I used to love them. So I really think there's a time and place for this now. I really do. I think a lot of people would get into this because tea has benefits. Coffee apparently has benefits, right? They're saying it's a powerful anti-inflammatory now. Why not blend? It's like, I love peanut butter. I love chocolate. Hey, you got peanut butter on my chocolate. Oh, wait, it's like coffee and tea together could have a place, I think. I really do.
It's a very interesting concept, and you probably heard it here first on Superhuman Radio. I forgot to mention on when we were talking about the different elements, there was one other piece I forgot to mention, and I touched on it, but lowering your body temperature as you go to sleep is a big factor in how cold. So making sure that you're in a cooler room, because normally humans grew up and the temperature would drop at night, be lying on the ground or whatever, and then you'd be grounded and that you would get this cooling sensation. But glycine is an amino acid that helps lower your body temperature. And it also, not only does it promote faster sleep, but also longer REM. So that defragging of your brain computer, if you will. So people who are insomniacs, 3 grams, about 3 grams will really help eliminate that grogginess the next morning, that insomniacs, struggle with all the time. So I wanted to just mention that one piece.
I love glycine. I think glycine is a magic amino acid. It's the most glycogenic of all amino acids, which means if your blood sugar starts dropping, glycine can readily go through gluconeogenesis and produce blood glucose. The other thing is it will raise brain GABA better than GABA itself.
Yep.
There's so many benefits to it. It blunts the negative effects of excess methionine, which has been associated with high protein, high meat diets. But here's one. If you're a public speaker, instead of taking what's the word I'm looking for? Instead of taking a beta blocker, you could take 3 grams of glycine and hold it in between your cheek, the buccal it's called, in between your cheek and your gum, and let it sit there, and you'll feel a calm effect come over you immediately. Glycine is magic. I use it as a sweetener. When I had my protein powder Thrive, that's what we used as a sweetener. Now, too much of it can create almost metallic aftertaste, but between 3 and 5 grams is very enjoyable. Use it to sweeten things. It's great.
And yeah, it's great for that. And I want to add about sweeteners. So people add, well, what do you use for sweetener? How do you get such a great taste with Sleep Breakthrough? It tastes amazing.
Yeah, I know.
But we've added a very unique sweetener to it, which is katemfe, which is a amino acid derived from a plant. It's a plant source in Africa. Not a lot of people know about it. And what's really cool about it is you don't have any aftertaste like you have with other sweeteners. And you only need a very microscopic amount in order to make an impact. This stuff is mega expensive because there's not big supply chains established on it. Right. But man, we started adding it to our products as a sweetener, and people love how clean the sweet taste in our products are since we've added katemfe. It's really wonderful. So we threw that in there as well as the sweetener. So when you drink this stuff, it makes a nice, pretty greenish blue color. It tastes great. You adjust on your components. So I always suggest to people start with, say, 2 scoops, and then maybe try 3 and try 4 if you want to do your basic sleep scores. Although a lot of the sleep score data is using secondary data, but you should have a good indication if you slept well or not physically, and maybe that correlates with your data. But when we first released this at one of the biohacking conferences, with people are maniacal about tracking their sleep, we literally sold out the product the next day. And the reason is everybody went with their sleep gear that they obviously came to the seminar that Matt held because they had sleep issues and they were tracking all the data, trying to figure it out. They came back the next day after sampling it, and they're like, my deep sleep doubled. My REM doubled. I want to buy as much of this as I can. And that's it. We sold out in an hour and a half. It was gone. Like, all our product was gone. We thought we'd have stuff for the whole weekend. It was gone in an hour and a half the next day after people tried it.
And that's because they tried it first.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing about everything that we do at Bioptimizers is everything has a 365-day money-back guarantee. So if you try the product and play around with it for a few days, try the different dosages, try the different sizes. If you don't get a better sleep, I'm demanding you right now, call us up, email us, text us, send a carrier pigeon. We'll give you all your money back because we're committed to you, the listener, our customer, to go out there and provide solutions for you, your family, and your sphere of influence, because people talk. Hey, you and I talk to all my colleagues, and we hear about a new product or a new methodology. Yeah, I'm going to go try that.
All right.
And some things work, some things don't work depending on your unique biochemistry. So we get that at Bioptimizer. So that's why everything has a money back guarantee. If it doesn't work, you get your money back. We're confident that it will. In fact, data just came in. We were just hovering over 1% refund rate. We've now below 1% this quarter on our refund rate, which the industry standards are somewhere between 20 and 40% on companies, and we're down at 1%. And we have a great customer service. We have real people answering the telephone. and talking to you in emails. It's not a chatbot GPT. It's not an AI system. We value your business. We love hearing the feedback, whatever that happens to be. In fact, I read all our testimonials every week on our company meetings. It's really fun because I want everybody in the company to see the impact we're making in the world. And we've now touched on, we're coming up on 250,000 happy clients around the world. We just said
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're really happy about that.
That's awesome. Very, very awesome. And thank you, Sean Wasson. Sean is one of the original investors in Gunleash.
Wow.
Did you get? We're sending more emails out. Hopefully, you're getting them to all of the investors to keep them up to date about the recent ATF news, which is just amazing for Gunleash. It's just amazing. I mean, between 50 and 70% of all the handguns used in crime, 300 major cities in the United States between 2017 and 2021 were all previously lost and stolen. Only 0.8% were from the gun show loophole that everybody's all got their butts all puckered up about. Oh, you can go to a gun show and buy the guns that they sell at gun shows are muskets. You know what I mean? They're selling old stuff. Yeah, so it's really impressive that that finally the ATF has come forward and said what I've known for 3 years. So that's very cool. All right, let's run our last break and talk a little bit more on the other side. I know we're running out of time here. We have you for a certain amount of time. So stay tuned. You're watching and listening to Superhuman Radio. Don't forget, share this show. You never know. One person could listen to this show and correct their sleep, and the outcome of their life is completely changed. So share the show. We'll be right back. Great sleep upgrades you on virtually every level: body fat, muscle mass, mood, brain function, and countless other ways. But taking melatonin alone isn't the answer. Thanks to a brand new sleep formula developed by my friends at Bioptimizers, you can experience the best night's sleep ever. Sleep Breakthrough is a delicious sleep drink that supports your natural melatonin production and relaxation without creating a dependency, so you can have the best night's sleep on demand. It targets 5 different sleep pathways to give you the best sleep ever. And best of all, you'll wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated so that you can have the best day possible. For an exclusive offer for my listeners, go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Plus, you can unlock special gifts with the value of at least $20. This is a limited time offer, so go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR right now.
Hey guys, it's time to change your f***ing underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of Sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have my pillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
I got a quick PSA. So the scumbags are in full effect right now, sending phishing emails out. If you receive an email that says you've won a Craftsman drill, or Harbor Freight has a package that they can't deliver to you, or a package is undeliverable and you need to click this link to set it up, or anything that you've won, just delete it. I mean, I am getting like literally 20 a day now. They are so scavenging so much email addresses right now, and they're all gonna screw your computer up, screw your phone up. Don't click them. You know what's on its way to you. You know you didn't win anything, especially when they don't have your name. Dear customer, that's bullshit. The companies you do business with, they know your name, and it's not the salutation of your email, Carl.Lenore. That's not my name. That's my email. Don't fall for this, because they're going after people big time, and I'm sure they're getting thousands and thousands of dollars every time they do this.
Yeah,
Please.
online crime, cyber crime has now exceeded physical crime by multiples, and it's continuing to grow. So, protect yourself.
It's easier to fleece people online than it is in person.
Mm-hmm.
So, in summary, this is a product worthy of your efforts and money. If your sleep sucks even a little bit, there's always it can always be better. And you're gonna drink this and think, I can't believe how good this tastes. Is this should I be drinking this right before bed? Yeah, because it doesn't have any sugar in it, and it's all really, when you end of the day, it's all natural. And it will improve the quality of your sleep dramatically, because it addresses sleep architecture, which most products don't do. So check it out. Use the code SHR10, save 10% off. You can go right to buyoptimizers.com/SH. I think it's a /superhuman SHR. Use one of the links that we have, the tracking links that we have, shrnetwork.biz/buyoptimizers. That one will give you a list of everything that's offered, including sleep breakthrough. So you can go there and buy a bunch of things and use the same code SHR10 to save money.
Yeah, and you can get bigger discounts. There's a subscribe and save as well, because once you start with this product, you're going to fall in love with it. So many of our customers that have been using it have struggled with sleep, and I love those testimonies going, man, Wade, I've never slept better. Feels so good. And that really jacks me up. I know there's people listening to this right now. They're struggling. Go give it a shot. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You got a little initial cash outlay, but it's all backed with a money back guarantee. And
it doesn't work for you, you get your money back.
Yeah. And I'm confident it will. Our reports on this is fantastic. Like I said, it tastes great. It looks really cool, and it works, and it addresses the sleep architecture that we went into today. And if you want to go in depth, I would refer people out to Dr. Huberman. He kind of goes into that sleep architecture. There's a whole thing on it. You can put Huberman sleep architecture and talk about that. Mm-hmm. And he'll explain the nuances from a PhD. We've addressed those specific nuances with our lab in Bosnia. We have 30 PhDs and master students who are helping us pick the best formulas, test the raw ingredients. You can get all the raws. It's not lab assays. We're actually looking what works in the microbiome, how it's delivered to the cells. We bought HPLC machines. We got these advanced microscopes. I was just in the lab a little over a month ago. I was over there, and they were showing me literally how the products are going into the cells. Wow. And it's absolutely wild.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
That microscope was $100,000, but it does all the data that they used to have to figure out by hand, and you can literally see it on screen as these ingredients go into the cell. It's amazing. Wow. It's absolutely amazing. Cool. If you look at 1,000 supplement companies, we might be the only one in 1,000 that has this lab, this type of lab research going into our product formulation, going into our ingredients. And then, of course, it's all backed by our 100% guarantee. So
that's wonderful. By Optimizers, baby. I thank you for being here today, Wade.
Always a
And-
pleasure, Carl. And
see
good
you
luck with the
soon.
Gun Leash program.
And good sleep to you and all my listeners.
Indeed.
Like instead of Merry Christmas, good sleep. I'd rather have good sleep than Merry Christmas. I'll tell you the God's honest truth. All right. See you later. Don't forget, share the show, folks. Share the show.